Before you take your next pill, consider what doctors prescribed just 200 years ago for the same ailments: powdered human skull mixed with wine. Known as skull wine, this was part of a larger practice called mumia, where the remains of the dead were ground into powders or elixirs for medicinal use. Yes, real human remains. People believed consuming parts of the dead could transfer vitality and strength to the living. For example, consuming the powdered skull of a young, strong man was thought to cure persistent headaches, while other powders were believed to improve stamina or mental acuity. This wasn't random superstition, it was rooted in sympathetic magic, the idea that a part reflects the whole, and that consuming something powerful could imbue you with that same power. The demand for these powders created a disturbing black market. Remains were sourced from hospitals, battlefields, or even freshly executed criminals. Wealthy elites and royalty often paid premium prices, believing they were literally consuming the power and vitality of kings and warriors. One notable historical figure, Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire, was rumored to have consumed parts of corpses in pursuit of longevity and vitality, illustrating how belief and social status intertwined in medicine. A critical safeguard: these practices are historical curiosities only. Modern medicine is vastly safer and more effective. Never attempt these remedies. Imagine being a patient in 18th century Europe, ill and desperate, offered a powder said to contain the vitality of kings. Would you have tried it? This question isn't just for shock value, it places you in the mindset of the people who made life and death decisions based on the beliefs of their time. By the end of this video, you'll understand how far humans went to cheat death, how some ideas accidentally hinted at useful science, and why exploring these strange histories can expand curiosity without endangering your health. After the era of human powders came the age of poisons as medicine. Renaissance and 18th century physicians often used mercury, arsenic, and gold to treat ailments from syphilis to general malaise. These substances were rooted in alchemical theory. Metals were believed to carry incorruptibility, transformative power, or the ability to balance the humors. Gold, for example, was thought to confer incorruptibility. The belief was that consuming gold's alchemical essence would transfer to the body, making the patient equally resistant to decay and disease. Mercury symbolized transformation, while arsenic was seen as purifying. Mercury was applied topically or ingested. Symptoms of poisoning, tremors, cognitive decline, excessive salivation, were often misinterpreted by physicians as signs that the body was expelling disease, tragically reinforcing the continued use of the poison. One notable documented case involved a French nobleman treated for syphilis with repeated mercury applications. Within weeks, he suffered severe tremors and ulcers, yet his physicians insisted the symptoms signified therapeutic progress. This belief, that suffering equaled healing, enabled the ongoing use of deadly substances. Historical records from the royal courts of France and Italy confirm these practices were widespread among elites. Social status intensified the allure. Wealthy patients could afford exotic substances, believing that rare metals and minerals would transfer vitality and resilience. The treatments exemplify the interplay of belief, desperation, and social hierarchy in historical medicine. This desperate cycle of poison finally gave way to a radically new form of hope: technology. By the 19th century, physicians began experimenting with electricity, magnetism, and radiation. Section 3, The Electric Miracle, explores this paradigm shift, from elemental poisons to cutting-edge devices promising miraculous cures, whether fraudulent or revolutionary. Engagement: imagine being offered a golden elixir or arsenic potion to cure a serious illness. Would you dare? These stories help us understand both the ingenuity and the peril inherent in historical medical experimentation. By the 19th century, medicine explored technology as a cure. Electricity, magnetism, and radium promised solutions where traditional remedies had failed. Early devices, like electrotherapy machines and electric belts, were sold by traveling vendors with dramatic flair, flashy demonstrations, buzzing machines, and glowing vials, promising vitality and health to desperate patients. These shows often highlighted magnetic bombs and vibrating belts, captivating audiences even as they delivered little real benefit. Some applications were genuine experiments. Electrotherapy attempted to stimulate nerves and muscles, though later devices like TENS developed independently. Radium products, such as Radithor, promised extraordinary energy but caused severe harm. The case of Eben Byers, a wealthy athlete, is notorious. His widely publicized, gruesome death from radium poisoning exposed the dangers and accelerated regulatory reforms, emphasizing the importance of rigorous testing rather than suggesting a direct link to modern cancer therapies. These examples highlight the boundary between experimentation and quackery. Novel technology inspired hope, yet misapplied science or outright fraud produced tragedy. The visual of glowing vials and buzzing machines underscores the palpable risk and the sense of wonder that made these remedies compelling. After the poison and the hype, you might assume all strange cures are useless. But Section 4, The Gross Truth, reveals that one of the most ridiculed, disgusting remedies of the past, once dismissed as a gruesome relic, is now saving lives in modern hospitals. Engagement: imagine stepping into a 1900s clinic, glowing devices, humming belts, and confident physicians promising vitality. Would you dare to try it? These moments of curiosity, danger, and experimentation reveal human ingenuity and the critical lessons learned about medical innovation. Sometimes, the cure that saves your life is the one you'd least want to swallow. Take this example, a therapy so repulsive it's been mocked as the grossest treatment in modern medicine. I'm talking about fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT. In simple terms, doctors implant healthy donor stool into the gut of a patient suffering from a dangerous infection. Sounds medieval, right? But here's the twist: it works. For people with recurrent Clostridioides difficile, a gut infection that kills nearly 30,000 Americans every year, FMT can restore balance to the microbiome when antibiotics fail. Clinical trials show success rates often exceeding 80 to 90%. Now, here's where history adds a bizarre footnote. In 4th century China, a physician named Gu Hong compiled the Zhouhe Beiji Fang, a medical text that, according to historians, included a treatment for severe diarrhea, suspensions of human fecal matter sometimes later referred to as yellow soup. Important note, these ancient remedies were not modern FMT. There was no germ theory, no sterile screening. They were based on empirical trial and error. Yet the similarity is striking: both involve restoring gut health by transferring intestinal material. Fast forward 1,600 years, and this same concept, now backed by science, is saving lives. And it's not alone. Another, disgusting ancient treatment has a second life in modern hospitals: leeches. Yes, the same bloodsuckers medieval doctors once applied to balance the humors are now tools of microsurgery. But today, their use is radically different. Surgeons deploy them with surgical precision. The leech's saliva contains hirudin, a natural anticoagulant, which prevents clotting and restores blood flow to fragile reattached tissues, like a severed finger or an ear. So here's the unsettling truth: medicine sometimes takes us full circle. What was once superstition can, under the microscope of modern science, reveal kernels of real effectiveness. Would you rather swallow a cure society calls repulsive, or risk a treatment that sounds medieval, if science promised it would save your life? Because sometimes, the most powerful medicine begins where our comfort zone ends. From cannibal powders to mercury cures, history shows us that instinct alone can mislead. Scientific observation and careful testing have always been key to progress. Looking back, the strangest remedies often contained kernels of insight, but only rigorous evaluation could separate myth from medicine. Edward Jenner's smallpox vaccination is a prime example. While previous practices included extreme or unsanitary remedies, Jenner's method relied on careful experimentation, controlled exposure to cowpox to trigger immunity to smallpox. He meticulously observed results, recorded outcomes, and shared findings with peers for verification. This emphasis on evidence over instinct marks the turning point from anecdotal tradition to systematic medicine. Other historical breakthroughs also relied on methodical approaches. For instance, early studies of antiseptics showed that cleaning surgical tools reduced infection, even though contemporaries were skeptical. What all these cases have in common is the reliance on controlled observation, documentation, and reproducibility. The takeaway isn't simply that evidence beats instinct. It's that rigorous scientific methodology allows us to distinguish between interventions that truly help and those that harm. Curiosity is valuable, but only when paired with skepticism, careful testing, and peer review. History reminds us that human intuition can be flawed, and unchecked experimentation can be dangerous. Next time you encounter a seemingly revolutionary treatment, ask yourself, what evidence supports it? How were the results tested? Who verified the outcomes? Thinking like a scientist doesn't mean rejecting curiosity, it means approaching novelty responsibly. The discoveries that shape our world often come from questioning assumptions, but always with method, measurement, and care. By learning from history, we gain the tools to evaluate the new, the strange, and the controversial, not by instinct alone, but through evidence-driven reasoning.